What's up, nerds? How you guys doing today? I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. Thought today, good day to get caught up on everything. Lots of progress in a lot of areas. I don't want it to get away from me before we do a catch-up video, so that's what we're doing today. A little bit of a catch-up. We'll probably start with some high-level stuff. Talk a little bit about map game, town game, talk about football game, and maybe some potpourri after that. Why are we doing this today? Because today is an exciting day. Let's get the banner up. Game dev money, $78. Here we go. I got my first check from Steam in like 6 months. Maybe in like a year. It's been a long time since I ever got a check from Steam. So game dev money is now $78. That's pretty exciting. Only slightly less than $1 million to go. That's Applebees type money right there. Also, the bankruptcy number has shifted a little bit. It was June last time. Now it's July 2028. We had a couple of good months. So we got one more month out in the future before I go bankrupt. So that's exciting. So all good stuff. Mostly excited about that Steam check. That was pretty awesome. Get that Applebee's money. It's very exciting. All right. Let's talk game dev. I'd say first things first. Let's just, you know what? Let's just play the game. Let's just get the game stuff up. Entire screen. Let's share that. There we go. We'll stick me up at the top. We like that. So this, if you remember, right, this is kind of like map game, but different. I essentially stopped working on map game. I think I talked about this in a previous video because I didn't really know like what the game was. I wasn't really into just like chill, cozy games. So kind of got stuck on like, what's the point? What's the gameplay? Like, what is the gameplay building towards? What is the point? I just have a bunch of mechanics. I don't know what I'm doing. So then I started on town game, and you can kind of, I'm sure, whoa, right, there's our little town. Slightly simplified. But the same thing happened with town game. I got quite a bit going, and then I didn't quite know what I can't get the view just right, whatever. What the gameplay was, what was the point, what are you going to do, like how to make it fun, right? Because each of those games were sort of in a genre I don't spend a lot of time in. But what I do spend a lot of time doing is strategy games. And strategy games, football, role-playing games. That's what I spend a lot of time in. So, I don't know, one day I think I was on a run or a walk or something. I was out there and it just struck me. It's like, okay, each of those games by themselves doesn't make a lot of sense, right? Map game doesn't make a lot of sense because there's no sense of growth. There's no sense of like, I do these things and therefore I get better in some way. Town game, there's a sense of growth, right? But there's no point to the growth, right? Like just assigning your guys to quests just doesn't make any sense because like, all right, I'm growing, but what's the point? Why am I growing? There's no reason behind it. So it's just meaningless. And it dawned on me, why don't I just stick those two games together and make them a single game, right? Take the growth part of town game, add it to the gameplay and, purpose of map game and make one single game out of them. So that's what we're doing. So I kind of hacked together a little bit of a demo to see if it works, right? What I got is your little town in map game. and you make your map, and there's a whole bunch of other things you're going to do to make it, interesting. But the essential gameplay loop is making the map. Oh, I'm getting stuck doing this again. It's so addicting dropping these tiles, I swear. So, which to me tells you it's got something there. It's going to be a fun game. So I kept that part out of map game. I simplified map game down to the parts that were fun and sort of left out the parts that I thought were kind of dumb. And then I added your town as a management portion of it. So not only do you build the map, but then you use the map and you use your building of the map to help drive growth in your town. And then of course there's the recruiting of adventurers and there's quests and all that stuff. It'll be slightly different than the town game, but the core is still going to be there, right? You grow your town, you recruit more adventurers, you give quests, your adventurers get better. And then because your town gets better, then that then allows you to do more in the map portion of it, right? There's some stuff I'm still kind of figuring out, but that's the gist. And so far, I think it works really well. Oh, I really enjoy making the map. It's actually so addicting. Let's make a river over here. I gotta stop. It's so fun. It's fun. It's really fun making the map. So anyway, so that's where we are on town map game. I don't know what we're going to call it. The names I have for the previous two games don't really seem to fit that well. So I don't know, town map game. We'll come up with something. We're like that. Probably there. This is so addictive. I gotta stop. Okay, we gotta stop. We gotta stop playing. So that's going really well. That's the first piece. While I'm loading up football game, let's take a look at, stop sharing that window. See where map game fits into the grand scheme of things. So if we go back to the plan, I was kind of stuck here at this November. What I was going to do was a November release. There's still some issues as to whether that's even a good idea because of GTA. I feel like I could still get Map Town game done by then, but I also don't know if I need to. What I definitely do want to do is, now that I know what the direction of the town map game, that's this, right? Kindred Pieces plus town game. Let's just call it. I don't know what the name's going to be, so let's just call it town dash map game. There we go. Town map game. I don't feel like I have to rush to launch in November, just because I'm not 100% certain about this whole, if that makes sense, this whole GTA thing. I don't know. But I do know I want to have both games launched by April, right? Head Coach is launching April 20th. That's just the deal. Before April 20th. It'll either be April 20th or it'll be the week before. That's a done deal. If I miss that date, I might as well not even launch until the year after. So that's happening. Where do I launch town map game? Ideally sometime before that, or roughly around the same time. Ideally I would like to have town map game launched before, just so I don't have to manage two launches at once. But there's a lot of time between now and April. So how early? I don't know. Maybe it still gets done in time for November. I don't know. I'm not really I don't really care that much about the Next Fests anymore. All the data I saw kind of suggests that Next Fest isn't really that big a deal. So I'm not super worried about that, about hitting those timelines anymore. I still would like to launch minimum of 2 games a year. I would like them to line up with Next Fest in some way, just because it's a free way to get a little exposure, but it's not super critical. So I may tweak the release schedule a little more. Instead of just going 3 games, right? Instead of going 3 games every year, I might do 2 and make the games a little bit bigger. Well, I don't know. All I do know is now that I have a firm direction for Town Map Game, that's back on the schedule and still probably the first game released. Just don't know when, sometime before April, because football game launches in April. What comes after that? I'm still planning the John Wick game. Right now it's still in planning phases. I'm getting closer and closer to what I think that game needs to be. I'm still not 100% there right now. The reason I'm not 100% there is because the game I have in my head is too big to do in 6 months. It's got to be 6 months or shorter. It's roughly, ideally 4 months of hardcore game dev, and then like a little bit after that for launch activities. But the game in my head's a little bit too big right now, so I still got to scale it back a little bit more, and I'm not quite sure how I want to do that yet. But so far, the plan is still the plan. It's just like map games shifted around a little bit, and I started head coach quite a bit earlier than I had planned. So far, so good, right? We're still planning on making $1 million before 5 years is up. All right, let's jump. Now, that being said, let's jump over to football game, because this has been going crazy. This has been going gangbusters. If you remember, my initial plan was to, I'm tap dancing as I get my screen share here. My initial plan was to, I think it put me down there. Oh no, it's put me at the top. There we go. Was I wanted to get one good scene done as completely and with all the bells and whistles that I could, just so that I could like start showing something that has enough visual appeal and enough polish to it to get people to really understand what my vision is. It always kind of sucks to start showing gameplay that's not really refined very well, and then everybody's confused as to what you're going for, and then people start making assumptions about what you're making, and you're like, no, that's not really what I'm making. And it's like, well, how would I know? The gameplay you showed doesn't show me anything. So for the football game, what I'm trying to do is do the college draft as good as I can do it, as close to what my final vision is for the game as I can. Like really give you a great idea using the college draft to showcase, all right, when you buy this game, the rest of the game is going to be like this. So that's what we're going for. Now, I'm getting very, very close. I'm getting really close. So what we should see here is the college draft, right? I'm not going to go do all the scouting. I think I talked about the scouting in a previous video. That's all leading up to this. When I do an actual draft, we're going to use all the systems together. What you see here is the actual drafting screens. Obviously the background I'm going to change to the draft arena and all that stuff, but it still works for talking about today. So some of the cool things you can see that I'm doing with the draft. One, I'm trying to shrink down the interface elements as much as possible, right? The draft pool thing takes up most of this room on the screen because it kind of has to, but it doesn't take all of it up. As you kind of jump around and do different things, you're going to want to close this to look at other things, or maybe you'll leave this open and look at a couple other things. So it's not always going to be taking up the screen. I'm leaving room for you to just kind of enjoy what's going on in the environment. But I'm also trying to like make sure you have enough information on the screen to effectively do a draft. Because if you look down here in the lower left corner, the draft is live. There is a pick timer. You have to do your work before the timer runs out. Now, I don't know what I'm going to do when the timer runs out. I have a couple ideas. One, I really don't want to do then the computer just auto picks for you. I don't really want to do that because, like, what if you're playing this game and you're trying to do your draft and your kids start crying? Like, I don't want and you got to go take care of your kids, right? I don't want like you to be sitting here going, oh my God, but the computer's going to auto pick my team if I go take care of my crying baby. Like, I don't want to do that. That's dumb. This is a game. It's supposed to be fun. But also something has to happen when the timer runs out. Otherwise, what's the point of the timer, right? So I don't know. I'm still figuring out what that means. Other options I have is the team after. I kind of like this one more than just auto pick. I don't want to auto pick. I don't like that. What if the team that picks after you all of a sudden is on the clock? You flip flop basically. So like Houston right here, if their timer ran out, they would all of a sudden have the number 2 pick, and the team behind them would have the number 1 pick, and that team would then get to pick. So like all that really happens is you drop down a pick and the team after you gets to go. That's not horrible. It's better than auto picking. Like worst case scenario, right? I can't imagine you're going to leave. I mean, if you're going to leave the draft running and not pick for a half hour, you lose 3 draft spots. It's not the worst thing in the world, considering you've just left your game running for a half hour and you had no intention of picking. It's not a horrible compromise. Another idea I have is you stay on the clock. So like if Houston runs out of time here, they stay on the clock, but they can't negotiate. They can't trade anymore. Literally all they can do is pick. I kind of like that too, because if you get called away from the screen, you don't lose anything. You don't lose your pick at all. All you really do is lose the ability to try to find a trade. I think that's a pretty small price to pay. And I think that's the one reason that the clock matters, is because trading can be one of those things. If you get too much time during the trade, if you're going to spend more than 10 minutes of real time trying to find a trade, in my mind, there's a 90% chance you're trying to cheese the system. In that case, I'm okay with turning off trading when the time runs out. If just for some reason you couldn't draft and you just run out of time, I also kind of like the idea that you still get your pick and you can still take whoever you want, which is really the point of the draft. So like I don't know. Anyway, still figuring that out, but it's live. The ticker at the bottom shows you live, draft needs or when somebody gets picked. So like we'll make a pick here and you can watch the bottom portion, right? The on the clock bar. I've added some nice little animations and stuff to make it feel like it's a little more live. Then the current selection pops up, who they picked, the relevant information. And then it goes down and then my pick starts. And then, we might have missed it, but on the crawl, you'll see who was drafted already shows up on the crawl. So like I'm trying to mimic that real experience of watching the draft, because I love watching the draft. And like, so all of the things I get really excited about in the draft and all the things I pay attention to on the screen, I'm trying to have here, and I'm trying to make it feel like it's a live broadcast. In the background here, when we get there, you're going to see see Houston. Let's grab that guy. Yeah. So like in the background, I'm going to have like stuff happening too, like people walking around, like, the commissioner going up to the podium, just stuff. So anyway, I'm on the clock now and, I'm looking and like, I don't know who I want to take. Maybe I want to take Joe Burrow. Let's see how he is. Right. And then remember you got these little pop-ups. So like maybe I'm going between Joe Burrow and Justin Jefferson. right? I can pop them up and I can kind of do a side by side and I can say, oh, you know, Joe Burrow, Justin Jefferson, I'm kind of like, I'm going to rate him like a 4, but I like Burrow. He's like a 5. And you can see it updates it on my list. And then I can say, all right, oh, but maybe I might want a corner. Let me pop him up. And I kind of look at that and 93 speed, 76 man coverage. I do like that a lot. All right, let's give him a 4-star. Actually, Burrow, we're gonna give a 4-star too. It's not 5-star level. And you can kind of peek your way through that and do it that way. So I'm about to get sucked into this too. Like this is how I know I'm on the right track with both of these games, because like I'm about to get sucked into doing this draft right now. Another thing I wanted to add is I want to make trading not a chore. So I added this shop pick button, right? So if I shop my pick, it kind of simulates calling around, right? So behind the scenes, what's happening is teams are evaluating who's available to be picked. They're evaluating which pick is it, how much is that pick worth, how much is the player worth, what's my roster look like, who would I take and where would they fit on my roster? And then each team in the league, every team does that evaluation, and then they make a decision whether they're going to call and try to put an offer in for this pick. Here are the top 6 teams that decided, yeah, I want to make an offer for this pick and what their offer is. So you can see that what the Texans decided, they're going to trade next year's 1st, next year's 3rd, and next year's 4th for this pick. The Giants, next year's 1st, this year's 3rd round pick, which is number 2. And then a 5th and a 7th. These are terrible offers. So what that's telling me, these are not good offers. I don't have that logic quite set up. I don't have everything working yet. So let's turn that off. What that's telling me is most teams don't feel like the player they would take is worth this pick, because the offers are coming in terrible. So chances are I'm going to have to take less for this pick to trade it, or I'm just going to have to pick somebody, which is something I built into the AI. You're not just going to be able, the one thing you're not going to be able to do is be like, well, everybody here sucks. Let me just dump this pick and get a bunch of value for it. If everybody here sucks, the AI knows that they suck too, and they're not going to give you value for the pick. So yes, that is definitely a very specific anti-Madden cheese. But I think every game that lets you trade draft picks has that issue, except for this one. That's always a move everybody makes every football game, is you look at the draft and it's like, if there's nobody I want, I'm just going to trade this pick and get a boatload of, get equal or more value for this pick, when then the guy that they computer picks sucks. So that's not going to happen. Now that thought process also works for trying to trade for the CPU picks. So we restarted the draft. Houston is on the clock with the number 1 pick. Right now, the consensus is that they're going to take the defensive end Young, right? He's an 89. He's 21 years old. His potential's average. He's clearly the best player. He's a defensive end, right? Which is a big deal. He's clearly the best player in the draft. So that's probably who they're going to take. Now, look at this little bar over here. Interest in trading pick is 0 interest in trading this pick. That doesn't mean I can't try to trade for it. What that means is Houston has done the calculation that the player I would take at this pick is worth more than the pick itself. So they have decided I would rather have this player than have value for this pick. Now, I can try to go get this pick, right? I want to get the number 1 pick. Let's just see I got this little suggest offer button just so you don't have to do the whole, well, will they take this? Will they take this? Will they take this? Will they take this? Just hit this. It fills it in. What they right now would probably take is they would want the number 2 overall, and they would want the number 32 overall, and they would want a 4th rounder next year. So that doesn't sound horrible. But I don't know. Like, I haven't done a balancing pass, so I don't know if that's a bad deal. The number dropping down 1 spot and getting another 1st rounder and a 4th rounder does seem like a lot. But for that defensive end, maybe it's worth it. Let's just see if I have the debug in here that tells you how much they think he's worth. Yeah, they think he's worth quite a bit. They think he's worth, a mid-round, 1st round. Yeah, they think he's worth, let's get out of that. Right now, the computer thinks Young is worth the 1st overall pick, a mid-round 1st pick, and a little bit extra, just as a player. So, I mean, it makes sense. That's what they're asking for, right? Let's see how it changes. Let's see how the value changes for the next guy. So let's get Chase Young out of there. They obviously are going to take him. He's by far the best player. Well, let's just see. Let's shop. Now I'm on the clock. Let's shop this pick and let's see what people are going to offer me. Yeah, not nearly as much as the 1st pick was worth. You remember the 1st pick was worth the 2nd overall and a 1st rounder this year, and a pick in 2 years or next year. What they're offering for this pick, 1 pick lower, the 6th overall plus a 7th in 2023, right? A 1st and 2nd 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 7th in the future. Oh my God. So yeah, it looks like since these top 4 guys are all offering the same thing, that seems to be what the calculation everybody's made is. They've all decided there's nobody at the top of the draft that's worth so much that they're willing to overpay for the pick. And you can see it's quite a big difference in value. So that's something I've been working on for a couple of days. And I'm actually really happy with how that AI has worked out. So that's the draft. That's how the draft works. I got quite a bit to do on it. Ooh, this looks like a bad draft. Let's just see. Let's see what the difference is. So if I want to get this pick now and not quite as good of a draft. Yeah, totally different. Now it's the number 2 plus a 3rd rounder plus a 6th. So yeah, I mean, you can add players and stuff. You can do the typical negotiating, like, we go to the picks. Trading players is tricky just because each team will value each player differently. It gets a little tricky then, but let's just say I don't want to give up the number 2. I want to pick back to back. I want to pick 1, 2. So let's do this. Let's clear it out. Let's add, I would trade that pick. I would trade the last pick in the 1st round. So let's start there and let's see what else I'd have to offer. That's another feature I built in is you can start with whatever you want and you do suggest offer and it just fills in around what already exists. So like maybe I only want 2 players at the top of this draft. So I'm going to offer my 1st, number 32, and the 32 in the 2nd. And let's see what else I have to offer to get the number 1. I would have to offer a 2nd next year, a 3rd next year, and a 5th in 2023. That's not horrible, right? I mean, it's not a great draft either. So maybe it is horrible. I don't know. Anyway, that's how it works. That's how it works. Although Herbert's got 96 potential maybe. I mean, he's not scouted very much, so I don't know if he has 96 potential, but that looks good. He's got good speed. He's got good scramble, so he's definitely going to be a runner. He does not have a good arm in any way. He's got great pre-snap read, but he, like, as a thrower, he's just mediocre. So he's obviously being rated as a running quarterback. So if I had an offense where I needed a running quarterback, Herbert, he'd be great. I probably wouldn't run an offense like that. Swift. Both these running backs got 100 speed. Yeah, but they got average skills. That's the trick with a lot of these guys with good speed. If he's got 100 speed as a running back and he's rated 81, good chance that speed is doing a lot of the heavy lifting for his overall rating. Let's look at Swift and this guy. Who would I take? Break tackle, ball security. Looks like the difference between potential is a huge difference. I'd take Swift then. He's got 85 potential. Like skill-wise, they're not that different. Swift's quite a bit better receiver. Yeah, I would take Swift. I'd take Swift for sure over Clyde. Dang it, I'm getting sucked in again. All right, we got to stop. What else? What else do we got in the draft? Do I have anything else? On the clock, pick is in. We looked at pick is in notification. I do love my pick is in notification. It's kind of cool. I do like it. Right. And then the thing goes up. There's the pick. And then it goes down. I do like that. That's pretty dope. We got shopping the pick. You've seen scouting. I think that's it. I think that's all we got for right now. I am working on, what am I working on? I'm working on the environment. So there's not much to see yet, but you can kind of see, right? I mean, you've seen the office environment. No, you can't even see it. All right, never mind. I am working on the draft venue. Starting to build that out. Kind of like how the office is. I've got the big board up at the top to look at the draft venue. And then I'm kind of building the arena around it and like all the desks and the tables and everything. I'm going to have all the teams each have a table, like kind of on, like when you watch the draft now, I don't know if anybody remembers the olden time draft. Before it became kind of this fan experience that it is now. It didn't used to be that way. Right now they have like this big stage and they have the fans like it's a concert, basically. It looks like a concert. It didn't really used to be that way. So for people who haven't seen it before, this version of it, it used to have like a big stage and a big board on the back that kind of told you the draft order and who got picked and who's up and all that stuff. And on the floor, instead of fans below the stage, each team used to have their desk right in front of the podium. So like every team had a little station, right? The Viking station's right here and like the Eagles station's right next to them. And when you watch the draft, you could see like they weren't back in a war room. They were up by the draft, by the stage. So you could see like people running back and forth between team desks, and you could see them like picking up the phone and fielding trade calls, and you can see like them writing out their draft, who they're going to take or what trade's going to be. They fill out this little card, and the card had to get up to the stage to the commissioner before the draft timer ran out. Like that's how the pick was made. And you would see sometimes, you know, if you were watching your team, you'd see them write the card and they'd hand it off to the runner. And then they'd be like, no, come back. Because like they got a call for a trade. So then the runner would have to run back and they'd rip up that card and they would do a different card. It was so cool. It was so much fun back then. Like if you were if you are really interested in like the insider, like behind the scenes stuff of how football teams are made, God, it was the greatest event. It was so much fun to watch. Like now it's still kind of cool. It's more of a spectacle now than it is like nuts and bolts of how the NFL works. I really like the nuts and bolts portion of how the NFL works. So the old version was much cooler to me. So that's what I'm basing this game on. I'm going to base this on like more of the nuts and bolts stuff. Like I'm going to have the desks out front and I'm going to have the teams at their desks, and like there's going to be stuff happening there. And, you know, I'm going to try to make like the runner sprint at the last minute up to hand the card off. Like I'm going to try to do all that stuff and hopefully it works out. If it doesn't work, if all of it doesn't work out, it'll be pretty easy to just have the desks and have them do things at their desks without like having them interact between desks and between the stage too much. I'll still be able to do some fun stuff and put some little Easter eggs and funny things in there. But man, it would be cool to have them like actually like run around and do weird things. I think it would be really fun. So anyway, that's a little flavor of what I'm doing. So far so good. Like right between Maptown game it feels good right now. It's coming along. It's like, I'm really excited about where it's going. Football game, I'm very excited about where that's going to. Like it already looks and feels and plays better than I even would have hoped. Like I had hopes in my head of how that game was going to look and play. It's already beyond what my hopes were. So I'm very excited about that, which then tells me if I'm excited about these games and every time I like try to play, like show them off or kind of tinker with it, if I get sucked in and I find myself just playing it, I think that's a good sign. So I'm very encouraged with the way things are going. So far, so good. All right. I keep promising streams and then I don't do it. I'm going to promise again and I'm probably not going to do it. The reason I don't stream when I do think I'm going to stream is because when I get in the zone sometimes and I start working on something and I get in the zone. And the one thing I've learned is when I'm in the zone, don't stop for nothing. Like do not stop. You can't stop. You cannot waste the zone. And for like a week, I've been just every day, just been in the zone. So whenever that ends, we'll just start doing streams. I like the streams for when I need energy or I need motivation. If I have all the energy and motivation, there's no reason to stream. It's just going to stop it. So when I start running low, we'll get to the streaming. There are going to be some sections of both games that are kind of boring to work on. We're getting pretty close on the football one. Like all the fun stuff I kind of already did. I'm going to be doing, there's some boring stuff that's got to happen. Like building the venue for the draft to me is kind of boring. To me, that feels like something I could do on a stream because then I can also like ask if anybody's on the stream, I can ask opinions live because I'm not very good at making environments. So that feels like a good thing to do. And then there's like all the, assigning colors and that stuff's so boring, but you got to do it. Yeah, I think that's it. So anyway, wish me luck. I'll try to jump in at a minimum when the draft is done and fully, not done, but like fully functional. I will definitely be doing streams then to play test. There's one thing I do know is play testing on stream is essential for my process. So me play testing offline does almost nothing for me. Play testing on stream is like the best bug hunting strategy I have ever run across. So once the draft is playable, you can guarantee we'll be doing some drafts live on stream, probably quite a few of them. So look forward to that. That's it. That's all I got. So check into the Discord if you want like real up to date news and information. Whenever I think I do something interesting, I always post it on Discord first. But like there's like 5 people on my Discord, but they get to see it first. So there you go. All right. That's it. See you later.